Good day, dear learners. I welcome you in this new session in which I'll be talking about ethics, morality, and social dilemma, which will also include some element of self leadership and their relevance in today's time. So let's look at the overview of this session. Now, this session is divided into three sections. In the first section, you'll explore what is the meaning of ethics and ethos, try to find what is the difference between them, and how they influence the personal and organizational behavior. The second section, it will highlight the relevance of Indian philosophical values such as dharma, karma, seva, ahimsa in guiding the moral and ethical decision making in modern life and also at the workplaces. And the third section, the last section, by understanding the concept of self leadership, the triguna theory, and the importance of ethical leadership, it will help in resolving the social, the moral dilemmas in the contemporary settings. So that's how we're going to proceed. So remember in the earlier lectures, I did talk about ethics. So here will be very quick, you can say, overview of ethics, and then I'll be straight away coming to the point of discussion, right? So ethic, if you remember, I talked, it is a branch of philosophy that deals with the study of morality, what the values, the principles that guides the human behavior, right? And in other words, ethic is also the study of individual, collective moral awareness, judgment, character, and conduct. So, what is it involving? It is involving what is considered and examining what is considered as right or wrong, good or bad, or how individuals and societies they should make decisions based on these distinctions. So, if you know what ethics are, so now let's explore what ethos is. So, ethos is derived from a Greek language, originally meaning a accustomed place or a character that one shows in the face of challenges. So, ethos, it refers to a characteristic, it is a spirit, it is a culture, it is a value that defines a particular individual, group, an organization, or society that derives them into action. Or you can say it fuels them to make the right decision at the right time, right? So ethos also represents the what are the underlying values, principle, and ideals that is guiding the behavior, also helping them to make the decision in a specific context. And it, in a way, it's also reflecting the shared customs, the traditions, the norms that contribute to the identity and the reputation of the group. Interestingly, now you have to understand that ethos is just not a particular or a style of dressing or following a particular religion. It is deeply rooted in a person's psyche that empowers and motivates them to build the foundation of what they stand by in their existence. So a collective spirit of a community that builds unity in them and roots into their consciousness as a guiding force is the literal meaning of the term ethos. Now, if I ask you, can you now differentiate between ethics and ethos? So let's see if you can. So, ethics primarily focuses on the study and the evaluation of the moral principle, while ethos it is focusing on collective spirit and values that guides a behavior, especially in a specific context. Ethic is more concerned with the principles and guidelines for individuals, while ethos is related to the cultural, to the social, and the institutional context within which the ethical decisions are made. So, ethics can be seen as theoretical, right? It can be seen as a philosophical discipline. Whereas the ethos, they're more practical in nature, they're more descriptive in nature, representing the prevailing values and culture of a community. So, Indian ethos are the beliefs and practices that are adopted by the ancient scriptures. If you look at Bhagavad Gita, the other holy books like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Quran, Bible, and even the autobiographies of ancestors, you will find that how these practices are reflecting the Indian ethos. So, which is referring to their fundamental values, their principles, beliefs, and the cultural heritage that actually shape the Indian society and its way of living. So, the Indian ethos focuses on a concept known as karma, that is good deed. in performing operation in any circumstances. So Indian ethos, which is deeply rooted in spiritual and philosophical tradition, it is emphasizing integrity, self-discipline, humility, and respect for all the stakeholders' values that are highly relevant in today's workplace. Now, coming to the basket of need. What is the basket of need as per the Indian ethos? Now, you have to understand, like, if we are looking into the management sector, right? There are three core ideals which guides the human behavior. That is the basket of need, covering from um, the physical, the social, and the spiritual needs. So the mode of thinking is also there, the way individual perceive and act, and the hierarchy of needs, that is progressing from basic survival need to self-realization. So all these are aligned close to what we call as Maslow's need hierarchy, but with an added emphasis on spiritual fulfillment, on collective well-being as the highest goal. Now, the features, what are the features of Indian ethos? We have to understand that, because when we have to first then relate it with the workplace and the leadership qualities, and also the current scenario, the contemporary times. So the features and the elements of Indian ethos should be clear. So first is the holistic perspective. That means it emphasizes the holistic view of life, interconnectedness of individual nature and the universe. Second is the spirituality and the morality, right? So it focuses on righteousness, truth, compassion, and non-violence. Then moving forward, the other features are the family, the school, the social and community orientation, how the social harmony and community well-being is placed importance after the family and the neighborhood. Then diversity inclusivity, it also recognizes and respects the diversity of culture, religion, languages, and traditions. Then there is also balance and harmony. When there is so much diversity, there is a harmony between various aspects of life, the work, the personal life, the material, the spiritual pursuit, and the integration of mind, body, and soul. Now let's move forward to the elements of Indian ethos. So the elements of Indian ethos are the dharma, which means righteous path or duty, right? So it encompasses the ethical conduct, the responsibility and obligation towards oneself, towards others, and the society at large. Then karma, which emphasizes the law of cause and effect. Yoga is a holistic practice, that integrates physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. So all the physical posture, the asanas, the breathing control mechanism, that is pranayama, and meditation, ethical guidelines, yamas and niyamas, and all that is basically being integrated to produce a holistic well-being. Then coming to seva, which also refers to selfless service, an act of giving back to others, giving back to society, and giving importance to serving others, especially those in need, and without expecting anything in return. Then satyam, that is truthfulness, upholding honesty and transparency in all your dealings. Then ahimsa, that means meaning non-violence and respect for all living creatures. So these are the elements. Now let's just have a quick view on how did the evolution of Indian ethos take place. So it's like it has evolved over thousands of years and influenced by various philosophical, spiritual, and cultural traditions. And it has transformed over time to address the contemporary challenges as well. So if you take the you can say the quote from Sahih Bukhari, the best among you are those who have the best manners and character. This is the Islamic ethos, which underlines the character building with the best of manners. Similarly, text can also be drawn from the ancient scriptures like Vedas, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, and the teaching of spiritual leaders also like Mahatma Gandhi and Swami Vivekananda. So the principles and values of Indian ethos have been passed down from generation to generation, adapting to the changing, societal and business context. Now let us connect Now we have talked about the elements, the features, and the evolution of Indian ethos. Now let us connect with our modern personal life. So if you want to connect the Indian ethos, and it is being connected to us, all we have to do is just highlight it, right? So coming to family values and respect for others, don't we do that? Even when we are so far apart, the technology and the virtual bond is also helping us to bond and respect our elders, right? The moment we pick the phone up, the moment we call our grandparents, our parents, we always greet them with the greetings that we have been, we have been groomed enough to do that, to do so. You say namaste, you say assalamu alaikum, right? And you say good morning, good evening. These are the way you greet your elders, you pay respect to them, and how you address them, how lovingly you address even your younger siblings, your cousins, and so on. So, technology and virtual bond is also there. The second is Atiti Devo Bhava, that is the guest is God. And that is the principle of hospitality, which continues to shape our social interactions. And India is famous for that warmth, for that, generosity towards guests. So it is also visible in the tourism and hospitality industry, where a high standard of care for the visitors is emphasized. Then mindfulness and self-management, how yoga and meditation is also deeply rooted in our Indian philosophy. And how even the contemporary, now you can see the contemporary wellness programs, they're integrating our Indian philosophy of yoga and meditation, their techniques for the wellness program, for the psychological well-being, right? Then pursuit of perfection, that's another thing, that how self-improvement and detachment principle, this basically helps in the self-help movement. It encourages individuals to focus on the efforts and skill development rather than being consumed by the fear of failure or the desire for a specific kind of a result. Now the same thing. Now if you want to see in the personal life, now let us see the requisite for Indian ethos in any kind of an organization. So, for example, management attitude, how it is promoting belief in value oriented, holistic management, right? The same way, if you look into the education sector, how a school principal ensures that a fair work is being distributed among the teachers, and teachers also ensure that fair amount of work is being distributed among the students. So, and at the same time, the principal and the teacher might be holding some kind of, evening classes for underprivileged students as well. So they're fulfilling that social responsibility for neighborhood communities as well. Then humanizing the organization, how through personal relationship, right? Through man-machine equation and mental and spiritual growth. So a teacher, how she's balancing the use of digital tools with emotional connection by checking the students' well-being and encouraging teamwork and empathy among the students as well. Then interiorizing management also, how self-management or management by higher consciousness, that is Chetana, that is integration of mind, intellect, and heart. So you can also see, like, for example, before a very stressful PTM, parents teacher meeting, a teacher or an educator, she's practicing mindfulness or meditation, reflecting calmly, aligning all her thoughts together, the mind, the logic, the intellect, and the empathy, the heart, before the meeting. Then introspection is when you're embarking upon self-study, self-analysis, and self-criticism. So for example, if a teacher, she notices there's a conflict in the class, she reflects on the communication style, on her teaching. She tried to identify the biasness in the class, and she adapts their approach to create and modify the environment condition and create it into a more positive environment, right? So now, moving forward, now we have seen the relevance of Indian ethos in the organization. Now coming at the workplace, so how it also helps in a lot of different aspects at the workplace. For example, ethical leadership and decision making process also. So we find that the leaders, they lead with integrity, fairness, and responsibility. So they have to follow the principle of dharma, which ensures that their decisions are not just profitable or profit driven, but are socially and ethically responsible. Second is employees engagement and teamwork as well. So the whole Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that is, the whole world is one family. So when you're working at a workplace, you're at an organization, at an institution, at a corporate world, even at an educational institution, you feel like a family. That's your second family. That feeling should be there. That should emphasize, inclusivity, collective growth, and encouraging that all employees they work together towards a common goal. Then work-life balance and well-being is also important, and we find that the relevance of Indian ethos is also permeates in this sector as well. How we are practicing mindfulness, meditation, and flexible work policies to create a healthy and more productive workplace. Then sustainable and socially responsible business practices, just like seva, self-service, and social responsibility, carrying on social welfare beyond profit making. And Indian ethos, it always promotes that. It promotes sustainability, environmental responsibility, and community welfare. Then coming to the adaptability and resilience in the organization, because Indian ethos teaches the resilience and adaptability through the principle of what we know as karma yoga, which encourages individual to focus on efforts rather than on the result. So this mindset, it helps, I think this should also help the students also to navigate through different uncertainties, embrace change, and innovate a continuous, struggle towards lifelong learning as well. So coming to the significance of ethics in business and management. So of course, it helps in building trust, and that's because if you're ethical, you will be building trust among all the different stakeholders. A principal who's maintaining transparency in the grading system, in the admission process, in the promotion process, will earn the teachers and parents confidence and trust. Then reputation and brand value. This is the same thing. A school is known for its integrity in exam, the fairness in admission, which builds a very strong public image, public reputation, right? Then customer loyalty also, how students and parents, they prefer schools where the teachers are ethical, where the principals and the administration is consistent and ethical, and they're fostering loyalty to the institution also. So customer loyalty is important. Employee morale and engagement also, how it is creating a positive work environment. So teacher feel more dedicated when the school leadership, the principal, the head of the school, the head of the department, they value honesty and fairness at the workplace. Then even attraction of talent, how people prefer to work with those who are fair, with those who are ethical, and those who are respected because of their ethical values, right? So, and of course, risk management also, because nothing can be without taking the risk. So even when you're taking the risk, you should make sure that it's ethically correct. So ethical decision making will minimize the likelihood that you will go astray or you will make a wrong decision. There'll be financial loss, or there'll be a damage to any institutional reputation. So, ethical accounting and adherence to the guidelines protects any institution and school from any kind of a legal or administrative issues. Then further, we also see social responsibility, how school also like practicing environmental education through planting trees. So all of them, they're joining hands together, and they're working towards plantation of trees or plastic free camping, which is fulfilling the social responsibility. Then stakeholder satisfaction also. So when the school, if they engage the parents, the community members in the decision making process, so everyone feels valued here. Everyone feels satisfied. Everyone feels that their point of view is being recognized, is being addressed. Then coming to innovation and creativity, that's another ethical culture. It encourages innovation and creativity. It wants that we should think about novel ideas. At the same time, it also values integrity, and leading to the generation of new ideas and solutions. For example, teacher innovate classroom methods when the management respects experimentation and integrity, right? Then global competitiveness. So of course, like just in business that we see that how it is attracting international partners and customers and contributing to the global economic and social progress. Likewise, even if you look at the educational institution, if it is following ethical governance, inclusive practices, transparency, it will attract international collaboration. It will attract international students will be coming up. Student exchange will be also taking place, right? And of course, that all will contribute to the global economic and social progress. Now, Indian ethos in the modern corporate world, of course, the ethical and the value-based leadership, like just like in the Tata, this is just some examples that I'm giving here about Tata Group, how their corporate policy shows code of conduct and whistleblower mechanisms, which is based on integrity and responsibility. And when it comes to corporate social responsibility, we have Infosys and Wipro, which are the giants, technology giants, and they focus on education and their programs for community and environmental welfare. For teamwork and collaboration, we have inclusive workplace culture also, how companies now are embracing ethos, which is promoting inclusivity and diversity, right? Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that is, the world is one big family, brotherhood. Then sustainability and environmental consciousness also, how the ancient Indian tradition is being respected, the nature, prakriti, and promoted harmonious living. So the whole philosophy now is vital for sustainable businesses as well. Then morality. Now I've already discussed this, so just this is a brief. You can say we're just brushing through what morality is. So it refers to the principle of right and wrong, right? And it is promoting rational thinking and unbiased judgment. And it is especially important for students. Why? Because it is instilling the moral compass. So they stay away from all the negative influences that influence and can come from any agent of socialization. And you can take a pause and look at this slide in which different moral values for children, for students have been highlighted. Read them through. These are the values that are vital enough in order so they nurture it when they grow older, when they grow as an adult, they're able to practice these moral values in their daily life. Now, coming to ethical dilemma, this is very important. Everyone faces that. These are the situation when individuals or an organization they face difficulty in choosing between two or more morally conflicting options. So, how do you do that? So, to weigh the potential benefits and harms associated with the different courses will actually help you to do that. So, first, let's have a look at the characteristic of ethical dilemma. First is the conflicting values. There's a clash between the fundamental values or principles and making it very challenging to determine the right course of action. Sometimes it's so complex that they require careful consideration of various factors and potential consequences. Sometimes it could be the personal and the professional implication, the ethical dilemmas, when an individual may need to balance their personal values with their institution organizational responsibility. So the common type of ethical dilemmas are truth versus loyalty, right? This is a very common type in which, for example, a company where profit is given more priority over transparency, right? So the employee may face ethical pressure to manipulate for example, the sales data to meet the target. So truth versus loyalty. Individual versus community could also be there. So here the ethical dilemma is also when an individual interest or action is conflicting with the broader interest of the community or the society. Short-term versus long-term interest is also there. So we can see that a school may face an ethical dilemma when parents they demand high grades for students despite their poor performance. Also, that can come under individual versus community, and for example, justice versus mercy could be that when there is a pursuit of justice may clash with the consideration of mercy or compassion. Now, coming to the last part of this lecture, that is, we'll be talking about self-leadership. Now, self-leadership have been defined by many people in different terms. For example, the Bryant and Kazan has defined self-leadership as a practice of intentionally influencing one's way of thinking, feeling, and action. very famous Goldman, Neck and Hoxton, they talked about self leadership as self knowing, self awareness, self management, and ultimately self discipline. So it's a very profound, you can say, even just the word leadership. When it comes in your mind, we think about the business ethics. And to be an ethical leader, you have to set the tone for the entire organization. You have to establish the expectation for ethical behavior also. And you have to prioritize your ethical conduct. Employees are more likely to follow you, right? To follow in your footsteps. So you have to be a role model for them. So today's leader should borrow the principal tenets of self leadership. So, in the famous word of Ratan Tata, he said that I don't believe in taking right decisions. I take decisions and then make them right. Then the triguna theory of the simple guide to understanding leadership traits. Now, if you look at the image and then when you look at the content, I think then you'll be able to relate. These are the three types of people that are usually present at the workplace. And this is where even the whole leadership quality is being emphasized. And this is all stemming out from the Indian philosophy of Triguna theory. So first is sattva, that is wisdom and clarity, the reflective, the peaceful, the strategic side, the calm and the thoughtful. The rajas, which is action and energy, the ambitious, the enthusiasm and drive to do things. The tamas, which is the inertia and caution, the conservative, sometimes resisting side that wants to hold things back. So these are the qualities that you see that are usually present, and you can understand a leader through the Triguna theory. Then coming to the leadership development programs, there are many programs that have been making sure that they inculcate leadership qualities in all of us, right? Because this is now the life skill of 21st century, to how to lead, and especially such as self leadership, which is an essential in any kind of a work engagement or in any kind of an institutional justice. So emotional intelligence is very significant in helping leaders to understand and put their emotions under control, to meet the challenges at the same time, and to succeed in their goals. So training programs, they are making sure that develop leadership programs which combine the traditional management skills with philosophical principles. And this might include, modules on ethical decision making, emotional intelligence, which is deeply rooted in self-awareness practices and servant leadership approaches as well. Now, coming to the implication and practices of self-leadership, of course, the whole self-leadership theories and principles are used by an organization as a part of human resource development to improve the performance of the leaders and ultimately to improve the performance of any kind of an organization. So we find that without effective self-leaders at all levels, be it the private or the public organization, it is probably impossible to reach the goals, to sustain quality, and to deliver services and to be successful. So a great self-leader, they create a very happy society, and a happy society will ultimately build into a strong nation. So leaders' self-evaluation prior to the evaluation of others is very important. So self-leadership is a critical factor for a success of both leaders and the followers as well. So in the word of Bhagavad Gita, heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leaderships are the natural qualities of war for the Kshatriyas, right? So I think now these qualities are now much demanded for any employee at any workplace. So to conclude, now the timeless relevance of ethics that we have been talking about, the morality and the Indian ethos, it is shaping responsible individual and ethical organization. So ethical values and moral principles, they're guiding the individuals to make just decisions, while Indian ethos is also providing a spiritual cultural foundation for harmony, for integrity, and for social welfare. And what we saw as in the form of self leadership, it was rooted in self awareness and discipline, which was fostering responsible action and ethical decision making. So, by integrating these principles into personal, into our professional and organizational life, we can nurture a society which is grounded in compassion, in balance, and moral strength, which is very essential for sustainable and inclusive progress in the modern world, right? So, with this, I come to the end of today's lecture. These are the suggested reading that you can go through for all the comprehensive view regarding this today's topic. So, until I meet you again with another new topic, take care of yourself and have a good day. Bye bye.